Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Awakener podcast. This is the Awakener. We got a great show for you today. This is the best show in the history of the world because it's about truth. So something devious is going on. Everyone knows it. And this is kind of like we divulge in what actually is going on, and you'll get an explanation as to what is going on. Now, this is super, super complicated. I would call this an advanced podcast. This is not something where we're going to debate the common things that people are talking about in the news and the media. This is far, far deeper. The United States of America and the Western world are in a state of war, which means all of America's enemies are in this war against her, which means, follow along, the globalists and the communists are in a war for control of this world. The mechanism is to destroy the Western world, to raise fascism, a dictatorship. And this is what they have dreamed about or wanted to do for so many years. So to understand this and what they've done, you have to go to theawakener.ca. Number one, I'll explain you the war. I'll show you the two sides. I'll show you who's who, what they want, what's going on, and you'll see what's going on. Once you understand this battle and you understand the moves and the counter moves being made, you can kind of get a prediction as to what is happening, and you can kind of say, well, this must be their next move. This must be their next move. It's an amazing time to be alive, and so much is happening. I have Rocco with me. Rocco, how are you?
Oh, great. It's been a while.
Rocco, what's new with you? What do you kind of see in the world? What's kind of happening? Oh, Rocco's kind of sitting with me, so I'm trying to look in the camera at the same time. So Rocco, you don't want to show your face, but that's cool. Eventually, everyone's going to kind of show their face in the show because everyone will know that we kind of been right about most things, and people won't be like shy. So Rocco, what's new with you? What's new in the world? What are you kind of see coming? I know that you're really excited for Trump's presidency.
Yes, and as we were talking like a few months ago, it's kind of looking improbable. It wasn't looking like it's going to happen.
Right.
And we weren't expecting Biden to come in for sure.
Right.
But you were saying that you don't expect Trump to come in, and
I
I still differ from you on that. But let's see how.
So I never expected Biden to be in, and I didn't expect Trump to be in. I kind of thought things were going to kind of happen where both will. Well, none would really be in charge because what I would suspect was a military takeover. So the reason why things are happening, ladies and gentlemen, is for people want to understand is because Barack Obama was a traitor. Oh, what does that mean? So Barack Obama was basically a Soviet plant put in by the globalist establishment that controls the U.S. complex and the U.S. media, which told you to vote for him, and he proceeded to set up this giant war. So this giant war we're witnessing right now is the three-frontal war on the U.S. complex, where the U.S. complex was supposed to take the big fat L, the big fat loss, ladies and gentlemen. We were supposed to turn from being the dominant ones in the world to being the weaker ones in the world, where our enemies would have complete control. They'd be the dominant faction. Our globalists would be able to raise one world government. Okay. So this is kind of something that people have to understand that has been years and years. Now, Barack Obama was setting about this war, and they were all going to pin it on Hillary. Now, Hillary's talking about she's running in 2028. People have to understand something. Hillary has already bailed off the ship long time ago. Okay. The reason why people don't understand that is because optically the truth is going to come out and things are going to drip when they have to happen, because our enemies are preparing for what's called this power structure changing war. Okay. Now, this war involves Ukraine, it involves Israel, it involves Taiwan. And this was something that was going to be set up for us a long time ago. So factions of Ukraine and the Soviets, Putin, are working together. I know this seems, wow, that doesn't make any sense to me. How Wentworth? Putin is a KGB agent. He's lying. Ukraine, they're lying. Everyone's lying right now, including the people who are telling you on TV that they think they know what's going on. Everyone's lying. Nobody knows what's going on. So, Rocco, you look at me like, wow, this is a whole different level.
Yeah, you confuse everybody now.
Confuse everybody. So Hillary was going to have all this war blackmail. She's going to be blackmailed. She's going to have all this war pinned on her. Trump is her replacement by the U.S. industrial complex, knowing that a politician was going to be in office who would be completely blackmailed. Now, if you start to realize and start to understand that, the first key to understanding all this is Maxwell and crew are actually Soviet agents. So if you want to understand that, just imagine Jeffrey Epstein's name is actually not actually Jeffrey Epstein. It's actually some Russian name, same Gregorov is his last name. I don't know. Come up with a Russian name. Something. Mike, help me out.
Nikolai
Gregorov. So let's pretend, for example, that Jeffrey Epstein is not his real name. It's actually a Russian name. So if you go back and study history, Robert Maxwell worked for a bunch of intelligence agencies, but he was actually investigated by the U.S. complex for working for the KGB Russians. So The Soviet Union is not dead, ladies and gentlemen. They control our politicians. They control various oligarchs in old Soviet countries, and they're setting up war for the complex of the USA. So it would take the fat loss, and then boom, right? Does it make more sense now? No, it doesn't, because we've been talking about it forever.
No, it is. You can see it. Like, that's why the military woke, and military's gone woke and all that. So you can actually see, like, they
Right.
were being eaten away.
So the most key investigation that's going on is obviously Hunter Biden's investigation, because Hunter Biden leads to Joe Biden, and Joe Biden leads to obviously the truth. Once Joe Biden becomes a traitor, to win, what becomes Barack Obama? Rocco.
Sorry.
Say if Joe Biden, let's say Hunter Biden is indicted of being a spy tomorrow. Okay. Let's pretend, what happens to Joe Biden? He becomes a spy. Right? Obviously. What happens to Barack Obama? Why did Barack Obama approve all this treason? Okay, who put Barack Obama in office?
It's probably
The globalists, all these people. Yeah, exactly. So then it's all going in
So
unison.
you would say globalists and communists?
Yeah, they're all working together. They're all working together.
Biden, and so they got blackmail.
Right. So now you have to understand the idea of counter blackmail. So what is counter blackmail to you? So let's say that you're Barack Obama, okay? And say you're setting up this war, and you have complete control of Hillary because you're given a booklet. Here it is of all the information of all these bad people that are blackmailed, and now you're controlling them. So you invite them into your office, and you say, I want you to do this for me. I want you to do that for me. Well, if you don't do it, I'm going to tell people that, you Googled child pornography back in the day.
Right.
Okay, and we're going to ruin your life.
Yeah,
so you go along with it. So now understand that Trump comes in, and he knows that he has the same blackmail. So what does he do? He counter blackmails them. Oh, you're going to do this for me. So Trump's presidency, which I've told people for a long time, is a complete sham. It's nothing but counter blackmail, where specific people are being counter blackmailed to lead the enemy to their grave. Specifically, what the counter blackmail is think about what's happening on TV right now. Everybody thinks that there's no plan. Everybody's watching all this chaos. The U.S. seems weak, when actually there's a complete plan the opposite way. And you're shaking your head at me like that's not possible.
Oh, no, it's okay. I'm just listening. So it's fine. So you're saying U.S. still has everything in control.
So Robert Mueller's
everything that's happening
is an optical illusion for not you to watch.
Control.
Who's watching all what's happening on TV? America's enemies are watching what's happening on TV at face value to make their military decisions on what they base on to do what Barack Obama was setting up.
Biden's presidency made America look weak. So these guys thought, okay, here. So that's an optical illusion.
Right. It's an optical illusion.
While America was still strong, and it was just
right. Well, America was
weak. So
no, but America was covertly planning for this war. Okay. So think about Barack Obama once again. He's setting up a power structure changing war for Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, all these Middle Eastern nations, where they would gain the complete control of the world over us, and the U.S. complex would be destroyed. Okay. So think about something on like a critical analysis basis. So, what would you do? Would you tell people the truth when you got in office and just indict everybody when people didn't understand this all? No, because you'd lose the war. So what would you do? You would play like, I have nothing going on. There's no plan. Everyone hates me. So everyone who walks in your office then tells you, hey, just tell everybody that you hate me. I'm crazy. You have no idea what's going on. I'm clueless. I'm an angry person, or whatever the case may be. Trump is this, Trump is this, Trump is this. It's all optical illusion. Robert Mueller, for example, right? You don't believe for a second that Robert Mueller, when they were setting up this Russian investigation, if they wanted to get rid of Trump, if they had to, they would have done it. So why didn't they do it?
They didn't have anything on him.
No, it's because Robert Mueller was involved in the uranium scandal, and he was counter blackmailed. And the whole purpose of the Mueller investigation was not to get Trump. It was actually as bait for the FBI, right? So everyone went in there, tried to modify Flynn's 302s, and all the people who did that took the bait, they were all fired from the FBI. So what happened after this? The FBI then started working on Hunter Biden's investigation. Hunter Biden's investigation has led them to who? Who's now being counter blackmailed? Joe Biden. So does Joe Biden theoretically work for the communists? It seems like he does. It seems like he's like, here's Afghanistan. Here, I'm going to open the border for you. Okay. Yeah. It's an illusion of war. But you have to really start understanding
things.
Now,
at the end of his presidency, you come up with this Hunter Biden
investigations
and all. How does that lead to anything? Right? So he's powerless. He's got like a month and a half left.
Well, he does.
So how does anything change from now? Like with all the...
But it's a thing of war. So, for example, there's two sides to this war. The communists don't want to lose a war to America. So when Trump gets back on, what does Trump get when he's back in office? Trump gets, my listeners know, the biggest nuclear arsenal in the world,
Right.
right? So Obama was put in office simply because the communists have no answer to the U.S. Ohio class submarines. It's that simple. If the communists had our method of war, they would already have done their global revolution, and that's it. China would have already had Taiwan a long time ago if they had the firepower of the U.S. Russia on its own would have had the rest of Europe too.
So hold on one second. So you're saying these guys are still apprehensive of U.S. military might,
Right.
while they're saying like the Pentagon report will say, oh, U.S. is already depleted of all its ammunition,
So
all the missiles and everything. So what are you believing then?
Believe nothing that's coming out of face value right now. So I want you to go back in world history. I want you to understand something. Okay.
So you think this is just a setup to show the world that hey, U.S. is like running out of arms and everything.
Let's go back.
Given all the arms to Ukraine while it still has everything.
Right. So let's go back to the collapse of Rome, for example. Right. So when Rome was collapsing, let's pretend that when Rome was collapsing in its final kind of decade or two, let's pretend one of the enemies of Rome at the time that wanted to take over Rome's power actually was able to put in a Caesar into office in the final days that worked for them.
Right.
Okay. Now let's pretend that Rome's generals, a little birdie told them that that's who he was. What would Rome do in the final hours? After the Caesar left office, they would pretend like they were still collapsing.
They were saying yes. So just like
they would pretend that they were in chaos. They would pretend that there was no plan, even though there was a plan, and they would use that information against them to bait the enemy into their destruction.
So you're like portraying weakness to
lead to strength. It's the art of war. Do you see what I'm saying? So Trump's presidency, like I've told people from the beginning, is believe nothing that's happening at face value right now, and believe nobody who tells you that they think what's going on, because they don't. Case in point, why did Beirut blow up on Obama's birthday?
No, that's true. But here,
so if every general hated Trump and he was a complete idiot, how did Trump do that on Barack Obama's birthday? How did no general figure this out? Happy birthday, right? It's an optical illusion.
Okay, so you're saying all these guys are set up like so U.S. is being portrayed right now that it's weak, but all these guys are actually in control.
Right, that there's a plan.
But there's a plan, and the plan involves.
So the Western world basically is collapsing, right? Everyone knows this. If you live in Canada, the USA, the Western world, and you see what's coming right now, there's literally enemy agents calling for the death of Canada, the death of USA, the death of Israel embedded inside of us. These people are evil. Our economy is going down. Society is collapsing. People don't know.
So hold on. So all the people who are chanting protests like death to Canada, death to US are part of the same globalist communist setup?
No, they're the enemies. So the globalists have led the Western world to its grave. The whole purpose of the globalists is to get in power and create world government. They're doing this by aiding and abetting the enemy. They don't have access to their fiscal systems. They're aiding and aiding and abetting the enemy to the takeover of the US complex. Okay, this is what the globalists are doing. The globalists and the communists, radical Islamists, they're all working together to take out the USA. Obviously, this was going to be done through mass chaos, right? And a revolution here, much like the Soviet Revolution in 1917, where they would seize control. What do they want? What do these people want who say death from Canada, death from America? They want to seize control, and they actually want to put their plan into practice, right? How do they do that? They do that when we become so weak that we're able for a takeover.
So why? Okay, so the people who are controlling Biden and everything, they have everything in control. Why would they let? So forget the war. Why would they let these protests go on? Why would they let people chant like "Death to America"? Like, why are they portraying more weakness than this?
Because everyone's waking up and seeing this right now. The only reason people are waking up right now is because they're seeing the attack on Trump. People are saying, "Oh my goodness, Trump is acting like a really good guy for the Western world." In some senses, he has his problems, and people are seeing the attack on him. The attack on him is making people wake up and turning, right, and going, "Hey, wait a second, I don't see the world this way anymore. Holy goodness, I've had a complete change in my mindset. This is optically waking everybody up." So it's very much like if you watch Yuri Bezmenov, that video that he talked about on YouTube, he talked about the only way to undo the Marxist foothold on America is a counter awakening, which happens very, very slowly, where people don't even know what's happening to them. People are kind of plucked from being completely asleep to left-wing values, to patriotic values, happening over a very, very slow time, like taking a Band-Aid off very slowly.
During this election?
No, that's been happening for the last 8 years. So you're on already... So since 2015,
2016, yes.
So it's already started slowly,
and now people came back.
Well, we
based on
haven't had a lull because Joe Biden hasn't done anything to stop this awakening. People are witnessing all the stuff that's happening and they're
no. For
questioning
example, the
things.
change was that people were believing the media and people were brainwashed. Nobody was questioning the narrative.
Right.
Now people are actually awake. They know, okay, don't trust what's being said out there.
Right. So
People are questioning stuff right now. Okay.
right. So if Joe Biden, okay, you know what Operation Mockingbird is, right? So
Yes.
Operation Mockingbird is the control of the media.
Right.
So if Joe Biden has control of Operation Mockingbird because he's the president and Joe Biden works for the enemy, why are we not being put back to sleep?
Because I don't think that he's in control. Like they would try to put them in
Because
sleep.
he's
Like,
not.
okay, look at Australia. They want to shut down X. They
Right.
want to fine them 5%. They were passing a law. They want to
Right.
charge them 5%, but it didn't go through.
Right.
So I mean, these people are still trying to scuttle like all the avenues where people would get free speech and information.
Right. And
So
this
if
is
that succeeds, let's say
what,
they succeed.
but it's not going to succeed because people are waking up and putting a stop to it. People are already voting against it. People are already talking about it. Look at Instagram right now. I can post stuff, you can post stuff on Instagram, and nothing's going to shut down.
And actually,
It's
Zuckerberg went and he had a dinner with Trump yesterday.
right because it's an
So that's
optical
another
illusion.
thing. Like,
Those
what the hell's
people
going
who
on?
were blackmailed and controlled by Obama are being counter blackmailed to turn this all around. I know that seems like it's very hard for people to absorb that, and that Trump's presidency was an optical illusion of war. But I told people from the beginning, I'm
Okay,
like,
so
Trump is.
okay, so we're the point where we are right now. What do you see going like? Okay, the transition. There's two things. Like, okay, there's going to be a transition into a new government, and then where does Trump stand according to you
So if the USA
in the whole
turns
thing?
back, think about things from a military perspective.
Mhm.
Okay, Russia, China.
So US is trying to like the West, like UK, US is trying to accelerate the war. Okay, they're giving them more weapons. They're giving them permission to go attack Russia. How does that change anything from now till the?
Because there's going to be a war. So because Barack Obama's plan has failed, and because people are waking up,
Mhm.
the enemy is going to go ahead with this power structure changing war anyways. They're evil. They're not going to let the USA turn up and the Western world turn around and get all powerful again. They're not going to let us reject communism. They're not going to let us turn our nation around without
Correct.
ramifications.
Because of all the effort that's been put in,
So
and
if
that's
you
where the long term,
understand that
right?
the enemy
Mhm.
was going to lead us to our grave in Hillary's presidency, they were going to be able to get away with murder, have complete control of the president of the United States, who had complete control of the media, and literally do everything they had to do to lead us to our grave
And
while we're
nobody
all
would know
helpless.
anything
And
better.
nobody would have known anything better.
Yeah.
America was literally primed for the off ramp and
Yes.
extinction.
100%. If she had come in, nobody
So
would
what's
know
happening
anything.
now? So what's happening now is that the USA has turned on an off ramp, and actually the USA and the Western world are starting to talk, and people are starting to turn around. And America's enemies are going, wait a second. You know that original plan we had? We now have to come up with a plan B. So that plan B, well, coronavirus was the first start of it. The coronavirus happened because, number one, they had to get Trump off the nuclear button. Number two, they had to get Joe Biden in because Joe Biden and his son was under investigation. And the truth is going to come out, which is going to lead to them anyways. It was going to lead to the Soviets and Russia, China anyways. So they were forced to do COVID to get Joe Biden in and then formulate plan B. So the enemy is covertly putting plan B together. They have been for the last 2-3 years that we've been talking about on this podcast for quite some time. If you understand this, the enemy is coming up with a way to do their power structure changing war. Anyways, think about it as like a gold heist. If I walk into the gold and I don't think the cops are there, and I have my hands, I'm loading up the gold, I'm about to change the power of the world. All of a sudden, the cops show up. Am I going to have a peaceful transition? Am I going to put my hands up and walk away, or am I going to pop one or two of them and run away?
There'll be some struggle.
There's going to be a
for
shootout.
sure.
The U.S. complex knows there's going to be a shootout. They're not
Right.
stupid. Do you think they're going to tell you on TV? Do you expect the U.S. complex is going to announce to everybody on television, hey, there's going to be a shootout? Or are they going to keep you in the dark?
Okay, but here's okay. So
What would a sign of that shoot? Hold on, I'm going to tell you a question. Ask you a question. What would a sign of that shootout being imminent happen? Well, look at what happened in the news this past couple of weeks. The U.S. complex held it in the dark that a Chinese ship that was piloted by a Russian literally dragged for 100 miles its anchor, and it took out all the communication cables.
Okay, so here's the thing. I think it's just a statement not to ruin the situation, diplomatic situation between China and Russia and US. Because even if they know that this was done intentionally, they're not going to come out and say, "Hey, China did it intentionally," and then
Well, they've already kind of said that.
they have said it, but now it's like it's an off ramp to say, "Oh, it's the ship did it accidentally." Everybody knows
So people,
that that's the stupidest excuse.
but
And
people are
probably done intentionally.
But people are in denial. The only reason somebody would do that is because of war. The only reason you cut communication
okay,
cables.
it's the same thing when Israel and pops a few missiles into Iran,
Same
and
thing
then
with
Iran comes and says, "Oh, there was no damage, and we won't
exactly.
retaliate and everything."
It's the
It's the
same.
same thing, but you don't know what's going on.
It's two forces. The U.S. complex, which is Israel, Europe, the Western world, and they back it, Canada, versus the communist conspiracy. The Western world is in an all-out war with the communist conspiracy. There are two industrial complexes that are so intertwined right now that people can't differentiate between them. It's move and countermove, move, countermove.
Okay, so here's the thing: if you're saying Trump is all part of the plan, and if
And just like Biden is part of the plan.
okay,
Right
so Biden, so right now, let's say there is evidence that okay, they are in control, and the Biden is already compromised, and everyone knows. So forget about that. But why can't they use Trump if Trump is part of the plan to accelerate their retaliation against the globalists and communists?
So
because
Trump
they already
gets,
have a guy who can do what.
but if Trump gets back in office,
why
what,
can't if he's on
okay,
the why wouldn't he fire off a few nukes at their behest? Why wouldn't he do
but
that?
you can already project what Trump's presidency is going to be like. So the end of Trump's presidency, based on his first term, what does the enemy think is going to happen? You can literally spell this out right now. So number one, they already know what's going to happen to Iran. So if you read any of Trump's classified documents cases that were leaked, right, what's going to happen to Iran in his second term? It's going bye-bye. Iran is literally going to go bye-bye.
Probably, yes.
Okay, so what's going to happen to American energy independence? It's going to all explode. What's going to happen to Taiwan? He's already talked about a military package involving F-35 fighters.
Probably.
You think China's going to like that?
Keep China away.
No.
I don't know.
You think China's going to like that?
I don't think China's going to take any action if Trump's president.
Well, you know why they won't take action when Trump's president? Because they're guaranteed to lose. Because Trump has the ace of spades.
Right. So
high-class submarines.
They won't do it.
So will they do it before Trump gets in, when Biden's in office?
I have my doubts. I don't think they're going to go ahead. But,
okay. Well, if everyone knows the truth, that they were planning this all with the globalists for a giant takeover,
but I think cutting those communication cables and everything is part of some different, like it's an acceleration. It's a part of a plan.
No,
and it's not like a ship just dragged its anchor. I mean,
100 miles they drag their anchor.
Like, listen, man, I have boats, and you can actually know when your anchor is down there, and
that's what I mean. So they purposely did it.
They purposely did it.
Yeah. So the only reason somebody,
why would the government come out and say that is because they investigated.
But they didn't. The thing is,
it's not the Chinese who said that. It's not the ship crew who said that. It's the investigators who are saying this. So they're covering up something.
Okay, so a lot of the Western world are in denial right now of what's actually happening.
Yes.
And Rocco is a point of that. I'm just joking.
What I'm saying is, they are not coming out and saying, "Hey, China did it intentionally." They are saying, "Oh, no, it was accidental. They dragged the ship."
Because they had to release the news. So this incident,
alarm the people.
Right. This incident happened 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
Right. And they released this document, or the news, I should say, a couple days ago, and they made it seem like it was no big deal, when clearly it was a very big deal. Just like COVID was no big deal. COVID was no big deal. Just like it was just,
it's part of a plan. Now,
instead of telling everybody it was a bioweapon from a lab that was purposely meant to engineer the election,
so my question,
they told everybody it was a lab.
China did it at the behest of Russia or something. So what was the next step? Like, what were they going to do?
So China and the globalists and the Soviet Union have been planning this takeover of the Western world for so long. So the globalists have been poisoning the USA for 40 years, preparing it for the moment of empire collapse. When the moment of empire collapse happens, there's going to be a takeover. There's going to be a forced takeover.
No, I'm talking immediate. Like, what's their
like? Is the U.S.
What's the immediate goal right now to do that in Europe? What are they looking at? They want to start another war?
No, but
front. Like, what is it?
There's already 3 frontal wars.
There is. So them taking out the communication cables, whether China did it or Iran did it or Russia did the same thing. But
so I thought,
what's the end game?
The end game was to drag the USA into not a proxy war on 3 fronts, but an actual war on 3 fronts.
But the US is not going to get involved because some communication cable got cut.
The US is already involved. They're sending tons of money to Ukraine
on a different level.
No, they're already sending tons of money to Ukraine.
And now
you are already in a third world war.
Right,
I will tell you right now.
Yes,
100%.
And there's already talks about these guys getting involved. Like UK and France said they might be sending soldiers.
So if there's going to be a world war, you would cut the communication cables of the opposing side.
So Russia and China already preempted. They're thinking that there is going to be a war. This is the first step. Like
COVID was already a preemptive war.
So
when they signaled for COVID, what was on China? What was on Barack Obama?
So why would they do it now while the transition is going on? You think he's weak in this transition period? 2 months, he can't take a decision.
No, because because they can't, because they're guaranteed to lose.
So you're telling me they're going to do it now?
The whole purpose of the communists and what they're organizing and the globalists against us is for one reason only: they cannot beat our war machine.
So basically, you're saying that they are
When you cannot beat the
So
U.S.,
basically,
hold
the
on one second.
perception is the U.S. is still weak with Biden in
When
there and compromised.
when you cannot beat an enemy in a full frontal exchange, right? You what? You kill from within.
That's fine. So you're
So
doing
what is the
guerrilla tactics. Okay.
what is the killing method from within? Who is poisoning the USA and killing from within?
Okay, globalists and communists are doing it. Okay, I understand.
It's a unison
But what I'm
war.
saying is the timeline. I'm just trying to get to. Okay, Trump comes to power. He's still in their
So
control.
I predicted that there would be a war before Trump gets in office.
So that's what you're saying.
I still have predicted that Trump will not have a presidency.
And the only reason he will not have a presidency is if there's a war and there's no transition.
Well, for a number of reasons, okay? The number of reasons why I think there's going to be a war, and I'll tell you why. So number one, if you follow the news, Iran and North Korea have put up EMP weapons in space, probably. Now, these EMP weapons are in low Earth orbit, and they decay from Earth orbit, which means they're on a time clock, which means that there's not a guaranteed time.
That was old news, right? I remember.
It's a year ago.
Yeah.
But regardless, they're still in orbit, and they still can be used. And they decay from orbit, and there's only a certain amount of time before they can make a move. Okay. The second thing that's going to happen is the U.S. has new technology coming out where they can jam satellites. That Russia has been introducing kind of a nuclear weapon from outer space where they can take out satellites. The next thing that's going to happen is the truth is going to come out any day now. As soon as kind of the truth gets to be on Joe Biden, the truth is going to come out. So we talked about those three pillars, the three pillars of Joe Biden, of Trudeau, and Zelensky. If anything happens to those three, everyone is going to learn about Barack Obama. When people learn about Barack Obama, everyone's going to learn about the globalists and the Soviets. They know, but it's not. Well, this is all happening for the brainwashed people. It's not happening for you to understand. It's happening for the brainwashed people to understand, to wake up.
I mean, there's still people out there who think he was the best president the U.S. ever had. So, I mean,
well, which is the case if he wasn't, ignoring Iran's EMPs, if he wasn't setting up ISIS and surrounding Israel with its enemies and doing all these other things. Logistically, from the way he talks, he's the most wonderful speaker for sure.
No, that okay, it's fine. But what I'm saying is like he's done a good con job on people,
right?
Because that's what they.
So if you were an enemy agent, if I was an enemy agent put into China, if all of a sudden I changed my appearance, I was a Chinese person, I was put in as leader of China, and I wanted to kill China economically, what would I do? I would send all the jobs away. I would spend money to put the dead in. I would make sure all the military is weak and not funded. I would kill NASA to make sure that there was no space dominance. What else would I do? I would do climate change and make sure China didn't have any of the oil. I would overtax them. I would make sure that they had a healthcare system set up that would never pay for itself, that would bankrupt the country. I would do exactly what that guy was doing.
What's the side angle on
the whole
coming out now and saying that she'll be,
because she's being counter blackmailed. So she's already jumped ship. This is all an optical illusion happening.
I thought she was done like 8 years ago. So
everything that you're witnessing, they cannot tell you on TV.
No, I know. So what's your angle on that? Like, why would she come up?
She's already jumped ship off a long time ago.
Right.
So we covered in this podcast that the only reason the Biden investigations happened are because Hillary abandoned ship and gave them the information. So Hillary has already abandoned ship. She's gone off her own way. She's pretending like she still hates Trump. I'm going to run in 2028. Eventually, like Putin and Xi are being led to a mistake. Putin and Xi are watching this all unfold. America's enemies are watching everything on television, making their military decisions on it. Right. And this is just an optical illusion while the U.S. prepares for war. It's just the time. The time keeps going.
So who's going to initiate the war if there is a war? Like, I mean, the war's actually going on. Who's going to do the?
So if you really wanted to change the world's power structure, if you really wanted to take
nuclear war,
100%.
So who's going to press the end button?
So if you really wanted to tactically, if you think about it, okay, let's pretend you can't get the United States of America because they keep all their guns and their military is still funded. If you wanted to take a bite out of the Western world and you wanted to do logistically the most damage where the most power was taken, you would take out Israel and you would take out Saudi Arabia. If you were able to take out those, you would have all the oil and all the wealth, and you could take out a huge chunk out of the Western world. And actually, if you think about it, China, Iran, crew could all actually have most of the world's kind of supplies, I would say, the oil, that kind of thing. So it would make them the most dominant. So I've always predicted that this is going to happen. There's going to be a war where they're going to have to center in on something to try to take it out. So this is imminent in my point of view. If the enemy decides to do this on Trump's presidency, they're going to lose. They're just going to create a bunch of chaos and they're guaranteed to lose this war, and the Western world's going to win. If they do this during Joe Biden's presidency, well, this is why I told you, well, does Joe Biden really work for them? This is the debate. Everybody wants to know why there's a secret deal going on between Hunter Biden and the FBI, and everybody wants to know. Well, maybe you don't want to know. The whole purpose of this podcast is maybe people have to think. Maybe you're not being told something that the television is not telling you.
Well, Hunter Biden deal makes sense because I mean they would try to get him off now after his term. There's no reason
No,
for
he's part of a counterintelligence
yeah, but
operation.
there's no reason for it anymore. Like
This
once
is this
Trump
is
comes
the
in, like
this is the optical.
but
This,
he has no useful use anymore. Like
what?
when Trump comes in, like Hunter Biden or Joe Biden. So
Well,
why would they not try to eliminate the
eliminate what?
like all the investigation? They would try to like stop it. Like,
Well, that's the whole purpose of Biden getting in. So COVID happened because Biden had to
yeah,
run.
so he's done what he's supposed to do. So he's leaving, so they would try to like, okay, that's part of the deal, you know.
Well, has he been successful in stopping it?
No,
well,
he's not.
I don't think so.
No, he's not been. But I mean,
so if the
military complex is still in control,
but this is
a deception.
But this is about change of power. So this is like if we all wake up and realize that the globalists that control our media and control our government were working with our enemies to destroy us. Mm-hmm. What happens? We vote them out, right? When we get to the point where 70% of us are awake, they lose these elections forever, right? What happens when we lose? Then they lose forever. What happens to Russia and China over a 50-year period once the globalists are voted out?
Yeah,
what happens to them? It starts their descent. So Russia and China then begin their descent. So therefore, Russia and China are going to make a move for control before this moment of transition happens.
So you're saying it's either of them that's going to press.
So if there was I'm telling you, if this is really all about a war and a battle for control, would the TV tell you the truth? Absolutely not.
Forget the TV. We're not talking about TV. But according to you, then it's in their interest to start something before Trump comes in.
Before the truth comes out. Before the truth comes out and Trump gets in.
So you're on a. So did you stock up on your iodine?
I don't know. This is why I've been telling. I've been the angry guy yelling at the television for 3 years, or well, more than that now. It's been like 6 years. Anyways,
but it was interesting because you were one of the first guys who were actually coming up against and saying that Obama is the Antichrist. So.
Well, I don't know. We'll see. Anyways, let's go to the Awakener.ca, everybody, and you can see everything there. Thank you for tuning in. It was great to have Rocco here as well. Yeah.